let's start. Let's start our chat. Hello to everybody. Good morning and good afternoon for Josh Lawrence. Well, it is night. It is a deep afternoon in his country, in Australia. Well, my name is Sergey Feofilov. I am a Chief Executive Officer and partner of UkrAgroConsult team. And UkrAgroConsult is a leading analytical team in the Black Sea grain, oil crops, and sunflower oil markets. Well, our clients are always know the latest events and the latest trends in origination, in supply chain, in price risk management. Well, and my counterpart on this informal chat, Josh Lawrence, a consultant advisor from IKON Commodities, Australia. Josh has more than 15 years of experience in the grain and food industry. His in-depth experience and knowledge is able to add value to our clients with supply chain cost savings and optimization initiatives and in trading strategies and risk management plans. Well, okay, it's great to participate in this informal chat. Ukraine, this dialogue will be devoted to rapeseed market, global rapeseed market, and also rapeseed markets of Ukraine and Australia and other countries and their connections on the global market. Well, as for Ukraine, I think that Ukraine is not a player number one in the rapeseed market. Well, and also it is not a player even number 2 or 3 in this market. Well, but still I consider Ukrainian rapeseed export as some kind of a balancing factor, especially for some European countries. Well, to know a little bit more about Australian market, I'd like to invite Josh to share his insights regarding Australian agriculture, Australian canola market. And I do believe that there are so many things we can learn from each other. Well, before giving your floor, well, I would like to boast a bit. Well, just 2 years ago, August 19, and just 6 months before COVID pandemic, I was kindly invited to Melbourne by Australian Grain Association to deliver insights about Black Sea grain market. Well, it was great to see this very beautiful country, to meet lots of people. Josh, welcome, and let's start our chat, and feel free to deliver your insights and deliver your ideas and thoughts to our clients. Please.
Thank you, Sergey, and yeah, thank you for inviting me along this evening or this morning to share with you some of the ideas we have on the Australian canola market. You know, this year in Australia, we're looking at a record year for production. Australian farmers are certainly being rewarded with very good rainfall to start the season this year, and high prices globally for canola has encouraged them to increase their planted area. So typically in Australia, Sergey, I'm sure you'd realize we normally grow around about 3 million tons of canola. We consume domestically about 1 million tons. So that leaves us with really only 2 million tonnes to export overseas. So in recent years, most of that 2 million tonnes of exports has been going to the EU, but on occasion we also do send some, canola to Greater Asia, to China, to Japan, to Malaysia. But no, it's very exciting this year. Our estimate, which we released to the market just last week, so this is fresh off the press for your clients. We've called the Australian canola crop at 5.3 million tonnes. That's up 500,000 tonnes from a record crop which occurred last year at 4.7 million tonnes. So certainly the area is up, particularly in New South Wales and particularly in Western Australia. And the farmers are certainly being rewarded with lots of rainfall to start the year. Our canola crop was only planted in April and May of this year. So we're about halfway through our growing season and things are looking absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Well, okay, thank you. Well, as for thank you for your description of the current situation in Australia. Well, again, the weather factor is mentioned in your speech, yes, as one of the most important factors. Well, as for Ukraine, weather factor is also very plays in the recent years a very important role. Well, anyway, this year we expect rapeseed production at level of 2.7, 2.8 million tons. In fact, this is just like last year. Well, and you see, it is very interesting events in Ukraine for this year production. The area declined very impressively because last autumn it was drought and rapeseed area declined. Well, but the total rapeseed production this year is at the level of the previous year because rapeseed yield is in fact 30% higher compared to 2020. Well, another point which is very unusual, well, due to colder and spring and with constant rains, well, harvesting of 4 crops in Ukraine was delayed and started actually in the same time, and it is not easy for farmers, for sure. Well, later harvesting and farmers' expectations of growing rapeseed prices promoted very low rapeseed export in July. It was just 43,000 tons of rapeseed were exported in July 2021. A year ago, July 2020, export was 5 times higher. The export was 230,000 tons. Well, anyway, August rapeseed export promises to be very impressive. At least 370,000 tons are ready for loading on the vessels, and 8,000 tons of rapeseed have been already exported. Well, key destinations of Ukrainian rapeseed export, this is European countries, about 90%, well, to Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, UK. But you see another surprise, 132,000 tons of rapeseed is bought and will be exported to Pakistan. It is actually nobody exported, but anyway, I welcome the new buyers of Ukrainian rapeseed. Well, as for the global market, we see a rather strong competition between European countries, between European buyers and China. Both destinations are eager to buy rapeseed. Well, and you see a drop in canola production in Canada, a rather impressive drop again because of drought, because of weather factor. Josh, what do you think? Who is able to offset that drop in canola production there, and how it will influence the prices?
That's a good question, Sergey. I think the prices are, let's say, doing some of the work at the moment to try and rationalize some of the demand or some of the exports out of Canada. So as I mentioned, last year, Australia had a very good canola crop. So for the harvest that took place in Australia in November, December of calendar 2020, we had a 4.7 million tonne harvest. It was, a record canola harvest for Australia. Around about 2.7 million tonnes of exports will go from Australia, or have gone from Australia, I should say, to the EU. Our shipping window for canola is very front-loaded. Our exporters like to get that canola shipped out before between January and June, before the Northern Hemisphere harvest, before your harvest comes back online. And our exporters have certainly done that this year. So if we roll the calendar forward, next year we will produce another new record crop, another 500,000 tonnes of canola extra production in Australia. And more than likely that extra 500,000 tonnes, 500,000 tonnes, will go to the EU. Now that is, of course, unless somebody like China or perhaps Pakistan, perhaps Japan, Malaysia, another buyer steps in. But I would suspect more than likely the EU will be the strongest buyer, and that will help displace a very small part of the overall decrease in production that will come through from Canada this year.
Yes, prices are heavy, under heavy pressure from the weather factors, and also we shall monitor constantly to inform our clients about the latest movements in this in the global markets. Well, as for Ukrainian export prices, they are stable with slight fluctuations around $630 per metric ton FOB. Well, but anyway, these values tend to go up. Well, and you see the farmers' behavior becomes more and more important in this country. Well, farmers now are in anticipation of even higher, even better prices. They want to see at least 740 US dollars for their rapeseed, and this is EXW, not delivered at terminal or FOB. And so I think that Ukrainian farmers might delay sales of their rapeseed. For sure, they sold some rapeseed under the previous made forward contracts, and I'd like to note that usually rapeseed export is rather short in time. It starts usually in July and ends in in December, just half a year. This crop year, I suppose, I believe the rapeseed export time will be almost the same, but with a bigger monthly export due to very low rapeseed export in July. And you see another story as for farmers' behavior. This year they made forward contracts mainly in July, not earlier. as those who made those the forward contracts in July, they are now quite happy, as it was just in July the prices went up considerably. And I believe that farmers made use of their last year experience of sudden price growth for soybeans and for sunflower, and for sure they wanted to repeat the positive effects of the last year. Well, and Josh, another my question to you: how much is it possible to expand the area under rapeseed in Australia, and how the factor of high marginality of rapeseed is able to promote further expansion of the area?
Yeah, thanks, Sergey. So yeah, certainly as mentioned, this year we've had a big expansion in the acreage planted to canola this season. We are certainly nearing the upper limits of the available area that is suitable to be planted to canola. So in a year like this, we have expanded, particularly in New South Wales and in Western Australia. We have expanded our acreage further north and further west for New South Wales and further east for Western Australia, so into the more marginal canola production regions. But obviously the growers were encouraged by the high prices and you know, the above average rainfall to start the year. You know, Australia, I guess in a cropping sense, is a very mature production sort of country. So a lot of the available area has already been brought into production. And so our major sort of increases year on year now exist really just with the fine tuning in yield improvement, whether that's farmer efficiency driven with their on-farm practices, or whether it's the genetics and the new varieties and new seeds that they utilize. But Australia, compared to other export origins around the world, as I say, is quite mature with the planted area. So that does leave us with a little bit of a cap above us before we can expand further.
Well, okay, yeah, thank you. As for Ukraine, the factor of margins is very important for farmers for making their decisions. What crop is more profitable to plant, and there is a great competition between crops in Ukraine. And as for the last crop year, well, it was a surprise that wheat was one of the most profitable crops with high marginality, as usually sunflower and rapeseed are the most profitable crops. And I agree with you that to expand the area of any crops is not easy task for farmers, and it is necessary to apply a better technology, better agrarian technology. Well, and I suppose in Ukraine we might see in the nearest time some decisions as for regulation of how to use the canola seeds. Well, not only the varieties, but also canola seeds. Well, okay. So I'd like to share with you some rumors that well, it is very unusual again, but according to market reports which circulate among our clients, well, that some Canadian companies booked about 50,000 tons of rapeseed for delivery. Well, and I try to check this situation, and I'm sure this we will know much more details, and this information will be much more reliable a bit later. It is possible to discuss this issue or this rumor about a Canadian import of Ukrainian rapeseed. Well, in a month, UkrAgroConsult team arranges an international conference, Black Sea oil, vegetable oil trade. It will be just on 9th of September, and I invite everybody to take part in that great event. Well, so, and Josh, have you heard any maybe not similar, but something like that, rumors about the possible behavior of the key importers of canola and rapeseed?
Yeah, well, certainly, I guess, Sergey, on paper, you know, it looked like Australian canola could price into Vancouver, could, you know, compete on price, but our availability to supply that market or any market just at the moment, because the Australian exports have now finished for the season, we are down to, you know, to the bare ends of the cupboard until we refill in our next harvest. So you know, it's really an interesting situation where you have that extreme price coming through with Canada, and the premiums that Canada are trading at over and above Matif and over European canola.
Well, okay. So, Josh, well, any other questions or any other ideas? Please deliver. Yes, it is. I'm sure it is very important for our clients, for those who participate in our chat.
Sergey, perhaps some comments on the domestic crush in the Ukraine. You know, how much is there the possibility for the crush to increase in the Ukraine, or is it you know, at its maximum capacity just at the moment?
Well, it is really crushing industry in Ukraine is very advanced, and lots of investments arrived in this industry for the recent 5-10 years. Total capacity is more than 25 million tons of sunflower, soybean, and rapeseed. Well, but Ukraine is a mainly producer or mainly crusher of sunflower and exporter of sunflower oil. Well, now the stocks of sunflower and sunflower oil, unfortunately, are rather high in Ukraine because of some market trends. As for crushing of rapeseed, well, the major part of rapeseed, maybe 85, 90, sometimes even 95% is exported. Well, rapeseed is produced in Ukraine for export. Well, for sure, European countries are the biggest, and they are the priority market for Ukrainian rapeseed. Well, but crushing products like rapeseed oil and rapeseed meal, Chinese companies are ready to buy these products. Well, but you see still the foreign demand is much more attractive for Ukrainian farmers and for exporters. So the major part of Ukrainian rapeseed is exported, and crushing industry focuses mainly on processing of sunflower and soybeans.
Very good. Thank you, Sergey.
Well, thank you, thank you. I suppose we discussed the most important and the most influential factors. Well, I really appreciate everybody being with us. Thank you very much. I hope you like the format of Super Dialogue. I believe the insights we brought today will promote your strategies being even more efficient and beneficial for you. Well, thank you very much for your participation. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sergey.